पानी मिटकर भी रह गया पानी।
हुई क्या बात, कह गया पानी।
बूंद बूंद में कट गया पत्थर।
चोट पत्थर की सह गया पानी।
चोट पत्थर की सह गया पानी।
The story of Jodhpur could have been of resilience and resourcefulness, an example of how a city dared the harsh offerings of nature and flourished to become the prosperous capital of the erstwhile kingdom of Marwar. The cumulative consciousness of the communities here towards sustainability and resilience, their ways of life, their culture could have been a powerful tool to battle the climate emergency that we are going through now. But alas, the path of development traced by this city did not embrace the treasure trove of wisdom it had. For example, Jodhpur could have been known as the Blue City, not because of its blue or indigo colored houses, but for its rich water culture. Unfortunately, this culture is now seemingly withering away. The traditional knowledge of this city has been meagerly used thus far, and the scope of its being transferred to younger generations seems blurred. But this can't be the end, can it? We need to turn a new leaf, we need to add a new chapter. In this story, so far, the city and its elders stands as the defenders of the rich heritage against the encroaching forces of mindless modernity. But the torch of knowledge and the responsibility needs to be passed on. In our new chapter, the torch is passed on to 27 young souls of Jodhpur, eager to champion the cause of building resilience and climate action through the culture of Jodhpur. 27 young minds from the Laxmi Devi Mundra School, the Mayoor Chopasni School and the Sambhali Trust joined forces. With blessings from His Highness Maharaja Sahib II of Jodhpur, GRRID Corps collaborated with the Living Waters Museum and East India Dastangos to organize an immersive 4-day-long workshop on the water culture of Jodhpur for climate action, Ripples of Heritage.
To celebrate the bygone era of resilience, we must equip ourselves with the impressive history of Jodhpur's water heritage by going back to the early 1400s. Amidst the scorching heat of Marwar, where the sun cast long shadows on the unforgiving terrain, Rao Jodha emerged as the chosen heir to the kingdom of Marwar. Rao Jodha aspired to shift his capital from Mandor to the present-day Jodhpur and build a fort which would mirror his unwavering spirit and tenacity. Yet, the path to building this fort was not without its challenges. Rao Jodha faced a formidable negotiation with Chiryanath Ji, a sage who resided on the very land where the fort now stands tall. The sage, on being asked by Karni Mata on Rao Jodha's request, left the hill but spelled a curse. The people and the land would always face water scarcity. Be it this curse or the immaculate sense of the geoclimate, the kings, the queens and their people were always cautious about water, its conservation and usage, and hence they constructed an intricate network of water bodies in the form of wells, step wells or lakes and reservoirs. Our story revolves around these water bodies. These water bodies could have been our powerful allies in climate action, and when left ill-managed, they in turn can add to the riskscape of the city. Unfortunately, this ecosystem is now vulnerable and fragile. ऐसा कोई शहर हो सकता है दुनिया में? वॉशरूम के अंदर पोस्टर के जगह ये लिखा हुआ है कि बस पूरे दिन में 3 बकेट ऑफ वाटर यूज करें. मे बी जहाँ वाटर स्कैर्सिटी हो वहाँ लिखा हुआ है. तो गेसेस कहाँ पे हो सकता है? जोधपुर में हो सकता है. कहाँ? जैसे ओके. वैसे यहाँ तो हुआ नहीं. मैंने तो नहीं देखी. मैंने नहीं देखी. राजस्थान के बाहर, इंडिया बाहर का राजस्थान जितना भी है, इंडिया के बाहर, सहारा. ओके. और अब अफ्रीका लग रहा है ना, दिमाग में आ रहा है। और उसके बाद ये आया दिमाग में कि अफ्रीका होगा तो नॉर्दर्न अफ्रीका होगा, मोस्ट लाइकली सहारा है। बट इंटरेस्टिंगली it is in South Africa and the city is Cape Town, and even I was shocked when I was there कि ऐसा भी हो सकता है। But interestingly Cape Town is a city जहाँ पे drought like conditions, पानी नहीं है for years, and somehow they are managing कि वो दिन जिसको हम ज़ीरो डे कहते हैं, जिसके बाद शहर में पानी ही नहीं होगा, उसको हम पीछे खिसकाते जा रहे हैं। Somehow they are managing it. तो ये एक अल्टीमेट सिनेरियो है जहां हम जा सकते हैं, लेकिन क्या हमें जाना है इतना एडवेंचरस लाइफ जीने? तो उससे ये क्वेश्चन आता है कि ऐसे जो वाटर बॉडीज़ हैं, ये तो काफ़ी बड़ा है, छोटे छोटे हैं, क्या वो बचाने ज़रूरी है? ज़रूरी है। तो हम बचाते क्यों नहीं, हम कुछ करते क्यों नहीं है? श्रीपर्णा ने एक सवाल पूछा था, सबने रानी सर, पदम सर, सबने नाम सुना है, तुर्जी का झालरा तो सबने सुना है, हैंग आउट स्पॉट है, यो प्लेस है, एकदम बहुत बढ़िया लगता है। एक उसमें से एक सवाल आया था, सत्यनारायण बावरी, किसी ने नहीं सुना है, वाई?
These water bodies stood the test of time. They narrate the tale of Jodhpur, sometimes explicitly and sometimes implicitly. Seemingly so calm, peaceful, and fragile, when disrespected and ignored, this mesmerizing yet mysterious entity of nature, water, brings disruption at its wake.
But what is very interesting is, ये हम लोग तो देख रहे हैं कि पदम सर हो गया, रानी सर हो गया, then these are the two lakes, but underneath it is also connections, जो सिर्फ इधर का नहीं, बाकी पूरा जोधपुर का भी बहुत सारे वाटर बॉडीज रिचार्ज करते हैं, जिसको हम लोग बोलते हैं एक्विफर्स। एक्विफर्स पता है क्या होता है? हाँ,
आई थिंक डक्स होता है जिससे पानी चैनलाइज करते हैं।
डक्स तो बहुत ह्यूमन इंड्यूस्ड हो गया, मैन मेड।
Rocks that absorb the water and transfer it.
you can say underground rivers, जैसे हम लोग अगर बोले कि जो ग्राउंड वाटर का जो नीचे है वो भी तो कहीं से ना कहीं से कनेक्टेड ही है ना, तो अंदर ही पानी मूवमेंट करता है। इट्स नॉट लाइक अ रिवर जो अगर तुम खोदोगे तो अरे पूरा नदी निकला है, ऐसा नहीं है। बहुत सटल चीज़ें हैं, लेकिन पानी ग्राउंड के नीचे भी मूव करते हैं, है ना, तभी ग्राउंड वाटर बहुत प्योर होता है। क्योंकि अगर पानी रुक गया तो तब उसमें प्रॉब्लम शुरू होते हैं। पर इफ़ द वाटर इज़ फ्लोइंग देन इट्स अ गुड साइन। एंड ये जो लेक्स है, it is still good and it is still considered a good form of pure water, क्योंकि ये नीचे से connected है and there is some sort of movement happening with this water in some way or the other, जो शायद हम लोग को दिख नहीं रहा है पर वो हो रहा है। So another thing is, ये जो traditional knowledges है, हम लोग इसको याद रखता है श्राप से, ये सब चीज़ों से याद रखता है, बट ये सब चीज़ें बहुत ज़्यादा साइंटिफिक भी है। अगर हम लोग करते हैं तो कुछ कारण न कारण करते हैं। अगर हम लोग एकदम बेसिक सोच के करें कि पानी इधर क्यों चाहिए, क्योंकि पानी है नहीं। जिन्होंने आपने बोला पानी, ये क्या है? पानी है। सिंपलेस्ट आंसर, क्योंकि पानी नहीं है तो पानी रखना है।
The present chapter in the story of Jodhpur captures the relentless tug of war between the old and the new. The protagonist isn't an individual but a personification of the city, particularly its old quarter. The wisdom of the older generation fused with the old ways of life, weaved along these magnificent water bodies. The antagonist, on the other hand, is the personification of the never-ending march of urbanization, veiled as development and seen as growth. The 27 students were divided into 5 groups, representing Panchatattva, the 5 elements, during the workshop. Jal, that is water, dancers in the play. Akash, that is sky, musicians in the play. Vayu, that is wind, narrators or the storytellers. And Agni or fire, and Dharti, that is earth, were the actors in the play. We often very casually tag them as the vulnerable ones. But mark our words, they, I mean, the young minds are the harbingers of change. They are the ones who think differently, and they are the ones who would foster the culture of resilience.
Over 3 intensive days, the students immersed themselves in a process of narrating the story of Jodhpur, focusing on the tug of war between the old and the new. Not much is needed though to inspire these young minds to action. We need to show them the facts, some from science and few from our traditions. And believe it or not, they grasp it well and they tend to communicate more powerfully than adults ever can. They understood the history, explored the evolution of the city, weighed the good and the bad, and finally, on the 4th day, presented a theatrical representation of how messy and ill-informed development has derailed their city. From being an epitome of resilience, the city has now become another example of fragility.
Good afternoon, everybody, and I would like to thank everyone present here, and especially our special guests, Singh ji and Highness ji, for taking out time of their busy schedule and being a part of the last phase of Net Zero project in Jodhpur. To begin with, I would like to introduce GRRID under whose guidance we have been doing this project since last year and on the verge of ending it today. To talk about GRRID, first thing that I would like to mention is we are an international entrepreneurial company who works with one motive in mind, that we need to work on these social causes, keeping in mind that we need to be backed scientifically. Our 3 main pillars that we work with are consultancy, social innovation, and capacity building. To talk more about GRRID and introduce Net Zero chapter of India in Jodhpur, I would like to call on stage Dr. Nicole Kanji.
Namaste everyone, and thank you for taking out time from your busy schedule and being with us. I have the privilege to introduce to all of you Net Zero. Net Zero is basically a global cascading capacity building program which is being housed by UNESCO's capacity building wing, ICCROM, which is based out of Rome in Italy. The very basic objective of this entire project is to understand whether we will be able to use heritage for climate action or not. We all are aware that climate change is a pertinent thing, it's happening, it's dangerous, and we want to know whether cultural heritage can be a tool for climate action or not. When I say that it's a cascading project, I mean that it is going on right now in 5 different sites in the world. In places like Uganda, Sudan, Brazil, Egypt, and in India. And when I talk about India, I mean it's Jodhpur. Even in Jodhpur, the basic idea was very same. can be mainstream, resilient, green, sustainable development through cultural heritage, through our traditional knowledge, through our indigenous practices, through our place-based wisdom. It has been a long journey and we have been doing a lot of work in Jodhpur, but I would like to highlight three very important things that we did during Jodhpur. First is that we felt that we need to document how people feel about climate change, because scientists, they feel very differently about climate change. They have data, they have statistics, they have numbers, and it's very difficult for normal people like us to understand. But it's also important for normal people to understand that climate change is happening. So we need to understand those perceptions. So the first phase of our intervention was a documentary on basically recording of oral histories of Jodhpur, where we try to investigate where cultural heritage can be used for climate action. So that's the first part. The second part is in tandem with what the municipal corporation is doing. It's a proud moment for all of us to say that the heat action plan of Jodhpur is the first of its kind, which has cultural heritage as a component in a policy document, and we have been able to mainstream it that way. So we did not want to stop at that. We wanted to investigate where can we go forward. So we went to older houses in the old city of Jodhpur. We studied those houses in terms of architecture, and we have found out that different elements which can actually be used in the newer buildings that are being constructed right now. So that is the second phase. The third phase is a more interesting one. When we went around in Jodhpur, we were amazed. Most of my team come from Kolkata, come from West Bengal, and from different other parts, but we were actually amazed by the intricate water bodies that Jodhpur has. We were stunned. And we also were shocked in a way that people were not so much attached to those water bodies. This may be true, this may not be true, but we as an outsider, we felt that there is something that we should do about this since we are talking about cultural heritage. So what better way to do it? So we thought we partnered with two promising, enterprising partners we have here. They will introduce themselves. We have the Water Museum, we have the Stangos. We brought them together and we wanted to inspire the school kids to understand how these water bodies are important and how important it is for us to preserve them, to conserve them. So that's the third phase, and it would be a little bit of boasting if I do so, but I would like to take this moment to say that the children here have worked hard for the last 3 days, 2 days, and they are willing to put up a great show for all of you on this water culture of Jodhpur, which you will of course enjoy. But that's the second part of it. The first part of it is we will like to watch the documentary of Jodhpur, where we talk about how the traditional knowledge, the indigenous practices, the place-based wisdom of Jodhpur can help in climate action and to build a resilient, green and sustainable world in the future. So, we'll come to that here. We'll watch the documentary now.
The documentary unveiled the climate culture story of Jodhpur, with views, opinions, perceptions of individuals of the community and facts from experts. The documentary unpacked all possible knots of the city, from detailing out the history of the city to debunking myths and investigating probable solutions to present challenges due to climate change. The documentary masterfully laid bare the riskscape of the city, inspiring and motivating everyone to come forward and act. While many were enthused to share the collective responsibility of climate action and risk reduction, some were amazed and intrigued to learn about the rich treasure of knowledge the city, its elders and cultural bearers hold.
सबसे पहले तो मैं रिकॉल कांजी और श्री कर्नल सिंह जी को बधाई देना चाहता हूँ कि उन्होंने जोधपुर चूज़ किया। क्लाइमेट चेंज जो कि इंटरनेशनल इशू है, जिसको आज के समय में एड्रेस करना बहुत ज़्यादा ज़रूरी हो गया है, क्योंकि जिस स्पीड से डिग्रेडेशन हो रहा है और क्लाइमेट चेंज हो रहा है, तो ग्लोबल लेवल पर अगर एफर्ट्स होंगे, स्केल इसका बढ़ेगा, तो हम इसके दुष्प्रभावों को कंट्रोल कर पाएंगे और जो भविष्य की पीढ़ी है उनको एक साफ स्वच्छ पर्यावरण सौंप सकेंगे। जोधपुर में उन्होंने जो ट्रेडिशनल वाटर बॉडीज़ हैं पहाड़ी या झारना, उस पर जो कार्य किया है, जो एक्सपर्ट्स उस पर उसके जीर्णोद्धार में और उसको साफ रखने में या उनको उनका जो ऐसा स्वरूप था वो रखने में जो सहयोग कर रहे हैं और कार्य कर रहे हैं, उन सब से भी इंटरव्यू लेकर उन्होंने एक अलग एस्पेक्ट कम्युनिकेट किया है, जो कि जो भी ऑडियंस ये डॉक्यूमेंट्री देखेगी या ये कार्य देखेगी उनको प्रेरणा मिलेगी और सेंसिटाइज भी होगा ये इशू। तो आने वाले समय में इनके एफर्ट से लोग कंसर्न रहेंगे क्लाइमेट चेंज के और क्लाइमेट चेंज के खिलाफ लड़ाई है ह्यूमन मैनकाइंड की, उसको बदल मिलेगी।
Moving forward to the final act, the young minds had meticulously crafted their own music, prepared their own dance routines, diligently prepared their script, and finally, in front of almost 100 people and the media, they put up a show which is not going to be forgotten in the near future.
So presenting to you Jodhpur ki Jalkatha, can we have the students take their respective positions, please?
प्रकृति का संरक्षण करना तो हर मनुष्य का कर्तव्य है। हम इस प्रकृति का ही एक अंग है। जहाँ जहाँ प्रकृति का सम्मान होता है, वहाँ 5 तत्व मिलकर हमारा पोषण करते हैं। इस परिसर में ही नहीं, पूरे राज्य में तालाब, बावड़ी और कुएं का निर्माण करवाया जाए। रानी चश्मा दे
जी आदेश थे। घर में पहला तालाब हम स्वयं अपनी निगरानी में बनवाएंगे और इसकी देखभाल करना केवल हमारा ही नहीं, हमारे आने वाली सारी पीढ़ियों का उत्तरदायित्व होगा।
हमारा आशीर्वाद तुम्हारे साथ है। जल का हमेशा सम्मान करना, तो जल का अभाव कभी नहीं होगा।
It was an absolute pleasure to witness the final showdown. Everyone was spellbound to see how the students, through their drama, songs, and dances, with the use of impeccable characterization, highlighted infallible principles of balance. Balance between nature and human, balance between the old and the new. They emphasized on how women of that bygone era took it upon themselves to build and nurture the astonishing water culture, which is now dwindling, and how water, which used to be a scarce resource once, was hence celebrated and respected. Their despair was obvious, but we could also see their ignited spirits, ready to act, ready to foster change, and ready to create a resilient new.
They brought back history to life and posed a question to every adult and decision maker present. This is not the future they want. They depicted their sentiments and opinions through their songs, through their dances, and through their theatrics. They were loud and were very, very clear. But are we listening? Are you listening? Will you be the change?